When someone becomes uncomfortable with your boundaries, the first instinct is often to assume you are being too distant, too cold, or too difficult. But what if the real reason has nothing to do with you? What if the resistance you face is actually revealing something deeper about the people around you? Why do some individuals react with anger, guilt, manipulation, or resentment the moment you stop allowing them unlimited access to your time, energy, and attention? The answer lies in a psychological dynamic that most people never fully understand. If you can't control your emotions, people will control you. Most people misunderstand emotional control. It's not about staying calm, it's about how your mind silently shapes your behavior, your relationships, and the way people respond to you without you realizing it. If you stay until the end, you'll understand the psychological patterns behind your reactions, why you repeat certain behaviors, and how your mind actually builds emotional habits in daily life. Because the real issue is not what you feel, it's what your mind does with what you feel. And most people never notice this process happening. Welcome to a space dedicated to understanding the human mind and modern emotions, helping people better understand anxiety, relationships, and their inner thoughts. In today's video, we will explore the hidden psychology behind strong boundaries, why emotionally weak people often feel threatened by them, and how healthy limits reveal the true nature of many relationships. By the end of this video, you may see certain people, and perhaps even yourself, in a completely different way. What you are about to learn could change how you interpret conflict, respect, emotional maturity, and personal power forever. So stay with me, because the final insight is often the one that explains everything that came before. Have you ever noticed how some people become strangely uncomfortable the moment you start saying no? Not in an obvious way. They may not argue with you directly. Instead, they become distant, passive-aggressive, disappointed, or suddenly act as if you've changed. And if you're someone who has spent years trying to keep the peace, avoid conflict, and make everyone happy, this reaction can feel deeply confusing. You start wondering if you're being selfish, too harsh, or unreasonable. But here's what most people never realize: the discomfort isn't always caused by your boundary. Sometimes it's caused by the loss of access that other people had to you. For years, many people operate on autopilot, constantly saying yes when they want to say no, giving more than they receive, and sacrificing their own needs just to avoid disappointing others. It feels easier in the moment. But over time, something starts to happen. Resentment builds. Exhaustion grows. You feel emotionally drained even after simple interactions. And the moment you finally decide to protect your time, energy, or peace of mind, the reactions around you reveal something you weren't supposed to see. Because not everyone benefits when you become stronger. And the reason why can tell you more about a person than their words ever will. What most people don't realize is that strong boundaries rarely create problems, they expose problems that were already there. The hidden mechanism is that many relationships operate on silent expectations that are never openly discussed. Over time, people get used to a certain version of you. The friend who is always available. The coworker who never pushes back. The family member who says yes even when they're overwhelmed. Your brain naturally adapts to these social roles because acceptance feels safe. Being liked feels safe. Avoiding tension feels safe. But once you begin setting limits, something unexpected happens. The people around you are forced to adjust to a new reality, and not everyone is willing to do that. Instead of questioning their expectations, some people question your behavior. This is why a simple boundary can trigger reactions that seem completely out of proportion. The invisible pattern is not about the boundary itself. It's about the disruption of a system that benefited from your lack of one. In everyday life, this shows up in subtle ways. Someone complains that you've changed. Someone accuses you of being distant because you're no longer available 24 hours a day. Someone acts hurt because you finally chose your own priorities. On the surface, it looks like conflict. Underneath, it's often resistance to change. And once you start noticing this pattern, you'll begin to see that some reactions have very little to do with what you said, and everything to do with what people lost access to. And this is where the real social consequences begin to appear. When you spend years without clear boundaries, people don't just learn what they can expect from you, they learn how far they can go. The problem is that this process happens so gradually that you barely notice it. A favor becomes an obligation. A small compromise becomes a permanent expectation. An occasional sacrifice becomes part of your identity. Over time, your behavior starts changing in ways that feel normal. but the effects quietly spread into every area of your life. You become more hesitant to express disagreement. You second-guess your decisions. You feel guilty for protecting your own time. Meanwhile, others become increasingly comfortable deciding what you should tolerate. This creates a subtle shift in social dynamics. People tend to respect what appears valuable and protected. When your time, attention, and energy seem endlessly available, they are often treated as less valuable. That's why some people appear naturally respected in social circles, workplaces, and relationships. It isn't because they're louder, more aggressive, or more confident. It's because they communicate, through consistent behavior, that access to them has limits. The psychological effect is powerful. Every time you ignore your own needs to avoid discomfort, you unintentionally teach people what treatment you'll accept. And once that pattern becomes established, changing it can trigger reactions that reveal far more than most people are prepared to see. The deeper truth is that boundaries are rarely just about the present moment. Most of the time, the struggle begins much earlier than people realize. Your brain doesn't simply react to the person standing in front of you today. It reacts to emotional patterns that have been repeated for years. If you grew up learning that being accepted required keeping others happy, avoiding conflict, or putting your own needs last, those lessons don't just disappear when you become an adult. They quietly follow you into friendships, relationships, workplaces, and everyday interactions. This is why setting a boundary can feel surprisingly uncomfortable, even when you know it's the right thing to do. Part of your mind still associates approval with safety. It remembers moments when disagreement led to rejection, criticism, tension, or emotional distance. So when someone becomes upset with your boundary today, the reaction often feels much bigger than the situation itself. You're not only dealing with the present, you're also feeling the weight of old emotional memories that were never fully resolved. The brain loves familiarity, even when that familiarity is unhealthy. That's why people often repeat the same relationship patterns with different faces. The names change. The environments change. But the emotional dynamic stays surprisingly similar. And until that pattern becomes visible, many people continue confusing guilt with kindness, self-sacrifice with love, and emotional exhaustion with loyalty, never realizing how deeply those old experiences are still shaping the way they respond to others. The moment you begin recognizing these patterns, something subtle starts to change. Not because your life suddenly becomes easier, and not because people magically stop challenging your boundaries. What changes first is the way you interpret what is happening. Instead of immediately assuming that someone's disappointment means you've done something wrong, you start becoming curious about the dynamic underneath the reaction. You begin noticing the difference between genuine connection and access, between respect and convenience, between people who value you as a person and people who simply benefited from your lack of limits. This awareness doesn't turn you into a colder person. In fact, it often has the opposite effect. You become more intentional with your time, attention, and emotional energy. You stop measuring your worth by how available you are to everyone around you. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to understand that discomfort is not always a sign that something is wrong. Sometimes discomfort is simply the feeling of an old pattern losing its grip. The people around you may not change immediately. Some may adapt. Some may resist. Some may reveal parts of themselves you had never noticed before. But once you start seeing these interactions through a different lens, it becomes much harder to ignore what was always there. And that's when an interesting question begins to emerge. If boundaries reveal who people truly are, what have your past experiences already been trying to show you all along without you realizing it? Maybe the most surprising part of all this is that boundaries rarely change people overnight. What they often change is visibility. They bring hidden dynamics into the light. They reveal which connections were built on mutual respect and which ones quietly depended on your willingness to ignore yourself. And once that becomes visible, it can be difficult to return to the version of reality you believed before. Think about how many moments in life are misunderstood because we only look at reactions and never at what caused them. A person gets upset, and we assume we're the problem. A relationship becomes tense, and we assume something is broken. Someone pulls away, and we assume we've lost something valuable. But human behavior is rarely that simple. What we see on the surface is often just the final chapter of a story that started long before we noticed it. Perhaps the real question isn't why some people dislike strong boundaries. Perhaps the deeper question is why certain boundaries feel so uncomfortable in the first place. Why do some limits create peace while others create guilt? Why do some relationships become stronger when honesty appears, while others begin to fade? And what does that reveal about the foundations they were built on? The human mind spends years creating explanations for what happens around us. Yet sometimes, the most important discoveries happen when those explanations no longer fit. When we stop defending old assumptions. When we stop automatically interpreting every emotional reaction as truth. When we simply observe. Because the people who enter your life, the roles you play, the expectations you carry, and the limits you choose to set are all connected in ways that are often invisible until a certain moment makes them impossible to ignore. And sometimes, what feels like the end of a comfortable pattern is actually the first time you're seeing it clearly. The question is not whether that pattern exists. The question is how many times it has already appeared in your life, wearing a different face, a different situation, and a different story. Before you go, if this video helped you see human behavior, relationships, and emotional patterns from a different perspective, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps more people discover content focused on psychology, self-awareness, and understanding the hidden forces that shape our everyday lives. I'd also love to hear from you. If you watched all the way to the end, leave a comment "I see it now" below. It's a simple phrase, but it tells me you stayed for the full journey and connected with the message. And don't stop here. Click on the video appearing on your screen right now and continue exploring the psychology behind human behavior and emotional patterns. Then check out the playlist we've prepared for you, where each video connects to the next and helps you understand yourself and others on a much deeper level. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.